Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Update: my 28 female, sister 35 female, is demanding I either terminate or let her adopt my baby. Original post: I, 28 female, am currently 19 weeks pregnant. My partner, 29 male, and I are very excited, as this is our first baby and we have been trying for a few months. We announced the pregnancy a month ago at a dinner party we hosted, and everyone seemed surprised and overjoyed. My sister, 35 female, who I will call Karen, immediately burst into tears and asked me how I could do this to her. I stared at her and asked, "What?" And she started ranting, saying that I always got everything I wanted. Which is not true, I worked hard for all that I have. Then added that she knew I got pregnant just so I could rub her infertility in her face. She screamed at me for 5 minutes about how I didn't deserve to be a mother, and she should be the one pregnant right now. My parents left with her soon after, and the party was basically over. I was really disturbed by my sister's reaction, because we had been pretty close before, and she had never done anything like this. Karen called me the next day, apologizing for how she acted at my announcement, and asked if we could meet up for coffee. I accepted. We met up and she pretended as if nothing had happened. Then she started a big speech about her infertility, how heartbreaking it is to be growing life inside of her, just to lose it, and how she had always wanted children of her own. She then proceeded to ask me if I could consider getting it terminated, to make things fair, or letting her adopt my baby. I stared at her and asked if she was serious. Karen said she was, so I just dropped my part of the bill on the table and left. Lester texted me a rant that night about how I'd made Karen cry, and how all they ever wanted was to be parents, and that this meant so much to them, and that I owed them for being more successful than them. I and my partner invested many years into our jobs, and we have worked very hard to earn what we earn now. I told them that my partner and I had been hoping for kids too, and that I was not giving up my baby. He hung up. She later sent me a long letter, 4 pages, about how she had always wanted to be a mother, and could I consider either terminating or letting her adopt my baby. How I should care about my older sister's happiness, how she would make a better mom, how the oldest kid should have the first grandchild, and how I could always just have another baby since it was so easy for me to conceive. After that, she quieted down some, and I thought we were done with this. Except, it wasn't. She had posted my sonogram on her Facebook, and captioned it, "Lester and I are expecting. We can't wait to meet our little princess." I was seeing red. I texted her and demanded she take the post down. No reply. I texted Lester, no reply. So, I called my mother and told her what happened. She was able to make Karen take the post down, luckily enough. Karen has called me petty for calling my mom and has continued to demand I give up my baby. I sent her a letter explaining that I had had enough of her nonsense, I am keeping my baby, and that I recommend she get some help. I added that if she continues, I will not hesitate to call 999. This weekend, however, was the absolute last straw. My mom and dad have the spare key to my house, and while she was over at their house for brunch, she took the key. Then while my partner and I were at work, she broke into our house and stole all the clothing, blankets, nappies, bottles, and pretty much any other item we had bought for the baby except furniture. It was later returned after my mom found it in her car. I called 999, but they told me I couldn't do anything because I had no proof and because it was all returned. My partner and I are moving in April, but I'm still scared my sister will find out where we live and take my child. I get that she's upset and jealous due to her infertility, but that shouldn't mean I have to give up my baby. My parents know about this, and they have been doing their best to get her some help. She doesn't want to adopt because she wants a child that's her own flesh and blood. I'm due in August, and the stress she's causing cannot and will not be good for me or the baby. My partner is looking into a cease and desist letter. Is there anything else I should do or say? I'm scared for my baby. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Your sister is mentally ill and needs help. I don't say that as a joke or to insult her. She's sick and dangerous. Honestly, I think your fears are well-founded. I would block her on everything and give you parents very strict orders that if you find out they've given her access to any info about your living situation or pregnancy, that you will be forced to cut them all off for your safety. I'd also go talk to a lawyer to see if there's anything you can do to protect yourself here. In the US, you can get a restraining order so that the person will be arrested if they come near you. Last, though, would be to make sure you have cameras recording your new place. All of this OP. Forget the fact that she is your sister. Treat her as a dangerous stalker. Block her on everything. Lock down all your social media accounts to the most private settings you can, so she can't get pics and so on from there, even with a fake account. Do not share your new address with anyone you don't fully trust. Set the boundaries with your parents that if they are the leak, you'll cut them off too and mean it. Same with any mutual friends. Edit and document everything. Every attempt at contacting you, every interaction with friends or family that you hear about, everything. Write down times, places, dates, and descriptions. This may be your only hope in getting a restraining order later. I started documenting back in February, don't worry. You should block her number, get a restraining order, move far, far away, and never speak to her again. She should definitively get a restraining order, as her sister seems serious about wanting that baby, perhaps even to a point that she might do something crazy. We are documenting everything we can, and we'll be getting our restraining order as soon as possible. My dude, that is deeply unsettling. Your sister sounds like she needs much more help than your mom can provide, and you need to be distanced from her. I'm glad you're moving, and that fear you're feeling is real. First of all, none of what she's doing or saying should have any impact on you becoming a parent. You are not responsible for her life. The fact that she's escalated to breaking into your home is very concerning, and if you feel like your safety is threatened, you need to keep in contact with your local police. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Keep being clear with your parents that she cannot be allowed to be around you, that she cannot be allowed to visit, and that if she comes around, you will contact the police. Document these moments, especially any criminal ones, so that you have a clear record of what she's been doing if you do need to involve the police. When you move, ask to speak with a desk sergeant and make a statement so that they have something in writing at your local station just in case. Now for the update 6 days later. The support I've received from this forum is overwhelming. Thank you all for your comments. Although I couldn't reply to all of them, they are appreciated. We have had the locks changed, cameras installed, and a Ring doorbell. I've started saving every letter and screenshotting every message my sister has sent, and plan to take them to court for a restraining order very soon. We have also been seriously documenting everything. My husband and I are planning a trip to Ireland for our anniversary next week, and it's going to be good to clear our heads from my sister. I've called 999 to report her for harassment, and they gave her a warning. She's contacted me saying that if I won't give her my child, I can at least pay for multiple rounds of IVF, which I have not replied to, other than refusing. She's been begging my parents to convince me to give up my baby, which they refuse to do. They have also been given a statement that basically says that if they give her my contact information, they will not see my baby, to which they have agreed. I've since changed my phone number, and we are moving very soon. My sister does not know our new address. She actually stood on our stoop for 20 minutes a few days ago, banging on our door and yelling. My husband opened a window and told her that if she didn't leave, he would let the dog out, and threatened to call the police. We have a rather small, but hyper puppy who jumps on everyone and barks a lot, and she is quite scared of dogs actually, so this made her leave. I started working from home last week, as did my husband, and we've followed the advice of one of the comments, washed all of the baby stuff, as well as made sure none of the food in our kitchen was messed with. None was, luckily. We're planning on getting a restraining order as soon as possible, and are looking forward to our trip. I'm already sick of being pregnant, and I'm not even in the 3rd trimester. I just want my baby. Thank you all again for your wonderful advice, and I may update you again when the baby is born. Her sister is actually mentally ill. She needs an intervention. Sister is mentally ill and found such a great guy who supports her in her insanity. Codependency. OP is right to be scared. Sis sounds like someone that would flat out steal that baby. Sis needs counseling, stat. Do not, under any circumstances, let her know where you are moving to. Make sure she doesn't follow you at any point to your new place. No, this sister sounds like someone who would cut a baby out of a pregnant woman's womb. She's completely crazy and needs to be involuntarily committed before she can do lethal damage, in addition to the emotional damage she's already inflicted. 100% exactly what I was thinking. She already posted a sonogram on social media, like she was preparing the world for the fact she would have a baby in 6 months. Super scary and worrisome for the OP. I had a coworker who also struggled with infertility. She lost her only child to a stillbirth and never recovered from it. She discovered that I, a young, healthy, and likely fertile woman, did not want children and demanded that I conceive and birth a child to give to her. I thought she was joking. She was not. Infertility can mess with your mind in all kinds of horrible ways, but sister takes it to a new level. Hopefully she gets the help she needs, but something tells me this will continue to escalate. How did everything play out with your coworker, if you don't mind me asking? The first time she said it, I laughed it off awkwardly because I thought she was joking. The second time, I told her firmly but politely to F off. She never mentioned it again but was noticeably colder toward me. Now for the last story. My 24 female, mom's affair partner who kicked me out of the house now wants to reconnect without talking about the past. How should I respond? Let's start with some history for context. About 17 years ago, my mom cheated on my dad with another married man. Let's call him Bill. My dad found out, which led to a divorce. My dad has narcissistic tendencies, which resulted in a very painful and messy divorce proceeding where I was put in the middle of my parents' fights. Several court cases lasted all the way up to when I was 15. Meanwhile, the relationship between my mom and Bill continued. I disliked him very much. He was the man my mom cheated on my dad with. Bill was a very prideful man too, and he had told my dad that he would soon be the man who tucked his children into bed. And when I started speaking up against him more, he would tell me my opinions didn't matter, that he came first to my mom and whatnot. He'd do this behind her back, which made me look like the bad guy when I reacted to it. Then when my mom was there, he would act all nice and like he was trying so hard to start a relationship. During this period, I turned inward more and more. I'd avoid Bill as much as I could. He slept at our house about 3 days out of the week. During a visit to my grandma on the 1st of January when I was 14, he told me that would be the year we would make up. On the way back, we drove past a house, and Bill commented he may put in an offer so we could all live there together. I protested, said I would live with my dad if they'd move in together full-time. He got mad and kicked me out of the car. I had to walk home for an hour. When I got back home, they told me I should move in with my dad, which I did, which surprised them. Me and my mom didn't speak for 5 years. Me and her have since made up. She has told me she was in survival mode because of the unhappy relationship with my dad and has said she would have done things differently if she could. I have kept avoiding Bill this whole time, only being around him during family events. It would be nice to be able to visit my mom's house without worrying about him, but I struggle leaving things behind me. I don't need a full-on apology for everything that happened. The whole situation was messy and it's long ago. However, I would really appreciate something like, "It wasn't my intention to make you feel unimportant," or "I never meant to come between you and your mom," and so on. Anything like that would help. I told this to my mom so she could talk to Bill about it. At first, he didn't want to say anything, but today, a few months later, I have received a message. He said that he wants to leave the past behind him and move on, for me to not lose more time with her, and that it would be a nice birthday present to my mom as it's her birthday today. I responded that I have no issue seeing him when I come to visit my mom, but for me to start with a clean slate, I would like to know how he looks at the past now. Is it a reasonable request to need to talk about the past a bit in order to start over, or should I just let it go because it was so long ago? He never hit me or anything, just provoked me behind my mom's back. How should I continue? Now for the top advice. Of course, it is a reasonable request, OP. Obviously, Bill is not acknowledging his mistakes, and maybe he doesn't even feel like these were mistakes. And it sounds like your mother isn't much better. Allowing a man to kick your daughter out of the car and out of the house at the age of 14, and then going no contact. I mean, who are these people? Both of them should apologize profusely to you and ensure you feel okay around them. Don't accept anything less than this. This is rug sweeping, not an apology. Without an apology, I would think that repeat behavior is likely, from both of them. Use that as you wish. I am not saying you absolutely must or must not see them, but have a clear vision that they have not apologized. Having those boundaries is far from childish. I wouldn't want anything to do with Bill either. He sounds like a sleaze who relies on manipulation way too much. Your mom is not who you want her to be. You seem to fixate on your father or Bill having these negative traits, but her actions show you she is worse in many ways. You are peddling a narrative to yourself that she was an observer to all this with no agency. Or she was blissfully unaware. Bill wasn't a master of stealth. She knew, and ignored it for her new guy. Now Bill is being magnanimous, which I am sure your mother is delighted by. He is able to skip accountability because he is a D-head, and because your mother allows him to. You will get no honest admission of guilt or heartfelt apology from him. Your mom probably doesn't believe he even owes it, but sees that something is needed to get you back in the fold. Take a step back and examine how these patterns keep happening, and you will find more than one parent with dark triad issues. Or she was blissfully unaware. Bill wasn't a master of stealth. She knew and ignored it for her new guy. Saying nasty things and then making sure no one knows they are capable of it is actually something narcissists do really, really well. I've dealt with a narcissist professionally, and it amazed me how much toxicity they were able to conceal under the charm. It's not uncommon at all. I'd bet Bill played similar head games with the mom. Mom is likely a victim herself, which is something kids pick up on. Mom did have the ability to choose, even if she likely never believed that. That's hard for children in abusive situations to see that the victim parent is also a perpetrator of their ordeal by not stopping it or removing them from the situation. He's bad, but your mother is worse. Survival mode or not, she allowed that to happen to her 14-year-old daughter. Maybe you need to rethink your relationship with her as well. My dad was very manipulative, which did give Bill an even worse start than he would have had from just cheating. I honestly think my mom didn't believe it was that bad for a long time, until I didn't come back. But she still stayed with Bill, so she really isn't sorry or putting you first. I don't feel like I can demand she breaks up with a man she loves and who she says treats her well, just because I don't like him and he's immature. He never mistreated me, called me names or anything. He did mistreat you. Kicking you out of the car to make you walk an hour at 14 is abuse. Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. They're not my kids and not my problem. Original post. About a month ago, I found out both of my children were the results of my soon-to-be ex-wife's affairs. I've had a feeling for a while now that both of them were not mine. 6 years ago when my son was born, I was the happiest I had been in my entire life. I had married my best friend, we had a child together, and everything seemed amazing. That was until he started getting older. After a few years, I started to have doubts that he was actually mine. He did not look like my child, and the more he started to grow, the more I realized just how different he looked compared to what I would expect a child of mine to look like. I am not petty or paranoid enough to let that alone drive me. It was my loose woman of a wife that really set my alarms off. Whenever she went out, she never went where she said she did. She would have huge holes in her schedule that she could never explain to me. She would refuse to allow me to interact with anyone from her workplace. And a close friend of hers accused her of flirting with her significant other at the time. It did not help that soon after our son was born, her lies started to catch up with her. Still though, I loved her like the fool I was. She told me up and down how much she loved me whenever one of her lies caught up with her. She had convinced me that despite the fact she was a lying and manipulative woman, that she wasn't a lying manipulative cheat. Last year, she got pregnant again, and I still held out a small bit of hope that it was mine. But when her daughter was born, it was obvious she was mixed race. I refused to sign the birth certificate, and the paternity test I demanded afterwards proved my suspicions right all along, that neither of them are mine. The day I got those test results were the day I filed for divorce from my ex and walked away from the family I had created. I knew that it would destroy her son's life to see me walk out, because despite my concerns, I was the best dad I could be to him. I loved him with all my heart and put in 110% into being the father he deserved. Now though when I see him, I am filled with disgust. Disgust for my horrible ex, disgust with myself for not trusting my instincts, and disgust that the last 6 years of my life have been for nothing. I have been told by multiple people now that I am a monster for leaving my son like this. My ex has tried on multiple occasions since I moved out to use him to guilt me into getting back with her. She will have him call me at random hours of the night, crying and begging for his daddy to come back. The day I moved out, she paraded him into the room as I packed my things to show me how much damage I am doing. In every conversation that he has brought up, both online and off, I am berated and shamed. That despite the fact I am not the boy's biological father, I am his dad. What I have sadly now realized is that, to most people, my own feelings mean nothing. My parents are my only supporters through all this, because even my own siblings call me a despicable person for abandoning a child like that. My feelings of betrayal and sadness mean nothing, because a child is involved. I know it is not his fault. I know that the man he called his father for his entire life just walked away. But why am I expected to man up? Why should I have to pretend everything is fine, and that I do not feel contempt for this entire situation? Why should I put my own life and feelings aside? I never was the boy's father. I loved him like one, and honestly still do, but I would come to hate and contempt him if I had to play that role. Then hate myself for not standing up and taking my own life back into my own hands. He is not my child, and even though it is not his fault, he is not my problem anymore. Now for the top comments. This story is crazy, and the same thing happened to my dad about 30 years ago. He was married for a bit to a woman, had a son he was sure was his. She later gave birth to a girl and he was certain that the girl wasn't his. Got a paternity test on both kids, found out both were not his. He tried to keep parenting the boy for a while, but lost touch when his ex completely lost custody of both kids due to substance use, and the kids went with grandparents. Such a crazy story with so much pain. I've only heard this from my mom though. My dad has never volunteered this information up himself. It's actually surprisingly common for women to commit paternity fraud. France made it illegal for a man to get a paternity test without the consent of his wife. The official reasoning is very telling. Paternity tests were banned in France 15 years ago. If French customs intercept DNA samples or results in the mail, the perpetrators in theory risk up to a year in prison and a 15,000 euros fine. The French Council of State upheld the law on May 6, saying it did not want to upset the French regime of filiation and that the intent of lawmakers was to preserve the peace of families. Who lies more, men or women? Men lie the most, but women tell the biggest lies. A man's lie is "I'm at Tony's house." A woman's lie is "it's your baby." Chris Ruck. Fun fact, in California, if you marry or are with someone with a child born prior to your relationship, and while together you hold out, that child is yours. Even though you know the child is not, if you later separate, you can be responsible for providing child support based upon the fact that you held yourself out to be that child's father. Source: I'm a family law attorney in California. New Jersey is the same. There was a story I read where a woman left her husband for the man who turned out to be the biological father of their kids, and still, he had to pay child support. Under New Jersey law, the children belonged to the married couple regardless of paternity. The law was passed in the 19th century to protect the children from the stigma of being bastards. This hurt my heart to read this. My gut reaction as a mother was to tell you it's not the child's fault, and so on. And it's not. But what is me not telling you to try and daddy those kids is your ex's reactions. She clearly had every intention of using those kids against you, to try and guilt you and therefore control you. What an evil, awful woman. Your siblings are wrong. There's no happy ending here. It's not some made-for-TV movie. Get away from her and cut all contact. Block her. Get a new phone number if need be. Man, this is a gut punch of a story. I can just imagine the looks on those faces in the delivery room when the second came along. Your ex-wife sounds like complete trash and you're better off. I hate that the 6-year-old is the casualty, but you didn't victimize him. She did. Exactly. OP did nothing wrong. My heart breaks for that little boy, but his mother did this to him, not OP. As a child that came from a marital affair, your feelings are valid. My mom was married to this dude we'll call Jack, and they had my sister. Eventually my mom cheated on Jack with my dad and got pregnant with me, and Jack didn't find out until I was born, and it was obvious that he wasn't my dad. He had basically black hair while my mom has brown and I was born blonde. He got a DNA test done, and once he found out, he left. He told my sister and my family that he couldn't look at me without being reminded I wasn't his child, and that my mom cheated on him. I was too young to remember them being divorced, I just remember missing him. I also don't remember how my sister took it, but I'll say this, I'd rather my mom and Jack get a divorce than them staying together, fueling the fire of a relationship that was drowning in unhappiness and resentment. It was the best choice for everyone in the situation in the long term. Edit to add, my dad's situation has always been a place of animosity and apathy in my life, and I'm glad I was able to talk about it here and potentially help someone who has a situation similar to my family's. I wanted to add this in case OP sees. The reason it was a place of animosity and apathy was not because of their divorce. It was because I have never had any sort of relationship with my dad, and my mom never told me who he was. It seems like you truly care for these kids, and I very much doubt they will feel the way I did in the future. Also, yes everyone, I know how genetics work and that it would be possible for me to be blonde if Jack was my father. There are other factors that contributed to him eventually getting me tested that combined with the aforementioned that led him there. Please stop trying to give me a biology lesson in the comments, it's appreciated but not needed. And now for the update. Wow, this post certainly blew up. Guess airing my dirty laundry accomplished something. Anyway, I've seen a few common questions so I'll just answer them here. 1. Her son knows the truth of why I left. I sat down and told him that I am not his father and that his mother lied to me and cheated on me. I made it clear I am not mad at him, that it is not his fault this is happening, and no matter what, I will still think he's an amazing kid. 2. Some are saying that I never loved him or was always looking for a way out. It's hard to convey emotions in a text post like this, and even harder to allow vitriolic hatred towards your loose wife decontextualize the last 6 years of your life. You can believe what you want though. 3. I have a lawyer, and I'm not going to be paying child support or alimony. Last though, for those who say I should stay in her son's life and be his father. That's not realistically possible. I do not hate him, but I have been cheated on, lied to, and used by a vile self-centered woman who has now caught her children up in her lies and deceit. He is a casualty of her actions and blameless. However, it can never change the fact of the harsh reality we find ourselves in. I don't hate him, I feel so sad when I think about how he feels. But all I see when I look at him is 6 years of my life I was lied to. 6 years of my life I was used. and 6 long years of built-up doubts and frustrations with a woman who used me. There is no putting aside my hatred to try and be in his life, because the life I lived with him was nothing more than a facade cultivated by his mother. This is the harsh reality I find myself dealing with, and I simply cannot in good faith put myself or him through it anymore. Edit 2. Since I am seeing many armchair lawyers in the comments saying this post is fake on grounds of what I said above, I will not reveal what state I live in, but I am currently going through a fun legal process called disestablishment of paternity. Won't shut up 90% of you who think Google makes you a lawyer, but at least I tried. Edit 3. This is going to be my last edit before I move on from this small little distraction I created for myself. First, I want to thank everyone for their kind words to me, in the comments, the DMs, and the chat. You have given me a bright day for the first time in a while. I wish I could reply to all of you, but I cannot thank you enough. Secondly, I have noticed many people criticizing the word I used very profusely to describe my soon-to-be ex. I want to just say that the place I am now is one of the darkest I have been in my life. I see nothing but white-hot rage for the woman who ruined my life. Is what I said inappropriate? Is the word I used to describe her dehumanizing and vile? Yes, I will admit that. But I won't apologize for it. What I wrote here today was the truth of the world as it is for me right now. It is the raw, unadulterated stream of consciousness of a flawed man. I do not intend to try and get people to hate women or to push some vile message about how women are terrible. That is not my goal here, and that is not the message of this post. I understand why people do not like the word I used here. And you know what? I accept that as a valid criticism of what I did here today. I came here today to simply find some outlet for the situation I find myself in. To rant, mourn, and deal with the complex and raw emotions that have torn me apart for the last month. A place where I can freely speak my mind. And you know what? I did that. Today was pretty alright thanks to you guys. Again, to everyone who showed me love and support, thank you from the bottom of my flawed heart. To those who came here disagreeing with me but showed me respect, thank you as well. After the shame and ridicule I face in my real life, the respect you showed me despite your disagreement was nice. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Now for the last story. My brother's flight got delayed 30 minutes and I'm terrified to tell my wife. Plus update. Let me explain. I haven't seen my brother in 2 years. He is coming to stay in the town I live in for a few days for work and has plans of staying at my house for one night of his several night stay. We plan on getting a drink, a bite to eat, then head back to my place to chill for a few. My wife is very abusive, manipulative, and controlling. She has spent the last few days berating me for seeing my brother as it goes against her evil agenda of trying to separate me from anyone and everyone I love. She has been making comments about how messed up it is that I expect her to put 2 kids to bed tonight by herself. Her compromise is that I get home by 11 and help her with the kids if they aren't already asleep. I've obviously been pushing back on this since she is a grown woman and can handle putting the kids to bed by herself once, because remember, I haven't seen my bro in 2 years. His flight getting delayed 30 minutes delays my plans 30 minutes, and I will be mistreated and berated for it. I hate it. I'm terrified of this evil witch, but I feel so stuck. Now for the top advice before reading the little update. I think you should divorce. This is what I must do. Reading responses and facing some hard truths are giving me some confidence and reaffirming how messed up my situation is. You absolutely need to leave this toxic woman. She's unhealthy for you and your kids. Life is too short. Wishing you a future of happiness. Enjoy the time with your brother. And don't worry about her. Stand up for yourself until you manage to GTFO. Thank you for the kind words. When you do leave, do not let her know you'll be leaving. A lot of DV crimes happen when the victim tries to leave. I know you can't leave immediately, so in the meantime document as much as you can. Keep a detailed journal of every occurrence and act of mistreatment, whether it be some small verbal remark or a physical attack, with a date, time, and as much detail as you can remember. If your state allows one-party consent recordings, then voice record as much as possible. I assume you want full custody of the kids. This is your best way to get that since it is so rare for fathers, assuming you're a man, to get custody of their kids. I know you may not think she will fight for the kids or try to end you, but there was a time when you never thought she would mistreat you. Do not trust her. Document as much as you can, and have a game plan to get out. Speak with an attorney privately to get your affairs in order. I hope this works out the best for you. I'm so sorry you're in this situation. She is scary, wrong, not all there in the head, mistreating you, and more. You aren't crazy. She is. Be careful and take care of yourself and your kids. Lawyer up, bro. Document everything. Call the cops on her if she freaks out again and file a police report. Work with your therapist and lawyer on crafting a case for full custody. Make an action plan to move with the kids back closer to your family or support system. Make a plan and then stick to the plan. When she blows up and tries to bring the kids in, call the cops or create alternate response via therapist and lawyer. You got this. Get organized and take your life back. Thank you for the support. This post is getting a lot of eyes, and it's the most confidence I've had in a while. I suggest that you fart in your hand and wave it in her face. This is a strong contender for my response to her. Sounds like you're gonna have fallout from having your brother visit either way. May as well enjoy yourself and make it as worthwhile as possible. Little update. Thank you to everyone for the kind words and support. I knew this wasn't normal behavior but needed to hear it, and the people have spoken. My wife is BPD, possibly narcissistic, and is very extreme in her responses to anything she doesn't like or agree with. Because of this, I have slowly been conditioned to let her have her way and mistreat me. It happened so subtly and right under my nose. Harm against men is real, and I can't believe I let it get this far. I have taken steps toward a divorce, but pulling the trigger on it has been hard. The idea of not seeing my kids every day is terrifying. But as many have pointed out, they'll be better off to get away from this environment. As for the people who told me to grow a pair or man up, I get it. And you're right, there is a responsibility on my part to establish boundaries. But the consequences of attempting to do that at this point include her attempting to get me fired, trashing my office, and so on. She goes there. And I'm working closely with a therapist to navigate my way out with minimal collateral damage. Thank you to everyone who direct messaged me as well. Thanks again all.